Hello and welcome to this repair tutorial, and today we're going to look at a Denon PMA 720AE. This amplifier, for me, I'm quite a fan of. I do enjoy repairing and servicing this model, and also the smaller version, which is the 520AE. Once the amps are working, then I'd say it delivers quite an impressive sound quality. And what I do like, not just cosmetically the design of the amplifier, but also the fact that if you adjust, for example, the bass and treble control, you actually see a marked change in the audio. A lot of newer amplifiers or modern day amplifiers, it's almost subjective that when you adjust the bass and treble controls, you hardly really notice any sort of change in frequency or tone at all. So for me, I do like the Denon range. So when we look at general specifications here, so the amplifier will deliver 50 watts of RMS power into an 8 ohm speaker load, but this will increase if you connect 4 ohm speakers. Now the amp can support 2 sets of speakers, so from the front fascia you can select speaker set A, speaker set B, or just B alone, or switch both of them off. It also has a headphone socket, which is common with these types of integrated amplifiers. And then in terms of total harmonic distortion, you're looking at 0.7%, which is very good. And then frequency response is 10 Hz up to 100 kHz. Now this amplifier does support the ability to connect a turntable, and it's a moving magnet cartridge that's supported, and the input sensitivity there is 2.5 millivolts. And then for all of the other line inputs you have 120 millivolts. And then overall dimensions is 430 by 121 high by 300 millimeters deep. And then weight is 7.1 kilograms. Now this amplifier came in with a particular fault, and this fault I've seen a number of times. Remember, there's hundreds of thousands of these models that are sold like any other amplifier. But you do tend to see certain faults appearing over a period of time, which we refer in the business as stock faults. So often when they present themselves, an engineer who's worked on a particular amp a number of times and has seen common faults will just simply go through a systematic approach to identify what's causing the issue. So from the user point of view, if you pressed the power button, what would happen is the amplifier looked as if it was about to start. So you would get the flashing LED for the power flashing red, and this probably for about 7 flashes, and then you would hear the click, and then the amplifier would just switch off, and then you'd have nothing else illuminated on there. So you're looking at it thinking, okay, well, what's causing the fault? Well, what I show in the video here is extracts from the service manual. What we show is two parts. So we're showing the startup transformer. I'll explain that to you in a moment, and then also the power output or the main power transformer. So how this amplifier works, and this, you can associate this with many other amplifiers which have startup circuits. It's a microprocessor based amplifier, so it has firmware code embedded in there. And that microcontroller will carry out a number of functions for the operation of the amplifier, including sending the command to energize a relay, normally on the input power board, which in turn, once energized, would provide mains power to the large toroidal transformer. So if we look at the overview that you're seeing here from the service manual, you can see that we have T901. Now T901, it's referred to as the standby transformer. So if you use maybe the remote control and you just flick the amplifier into standby, the amplifier from the microprocessor point of view is still operational. So if you hit the remote control to switch it out of standby, then the microprocessor, providing that there's no sort of faults which are existing, the amplifier will then say, okay, I'm going to energize the relay for the main toroidal, and that's fine. And then once that happens, you can see on the right hand side what this toroidal transformer is providing power to, and really it's providing the power to all parts of the amplifier. So you can see that it provides the power directly to the main output channels. So commonly these are not regulated, they are rectified and then smoothed. But what you'll also see is that we have multiple voltages as well. So you can see it says a voltage regulator, and then what they're providing power to then are the input selection stage, also the first stage within the amplifier or within the preamp, and then the tone control, and then also the phono stages as well. Now if those voltages were missing, then the diagnostics for the protection circuit would identify this, and the microprocessor would send the command to de-energize the power relay and switch off supply then to the toroidal. And this can happen also as well if the microprocessor senses an over voltage situation either on the left or right channel. Again, the protection mode will then kick in. Now when you look at the standby transformer, normally it's providing 6 volts, which then is regulated further then to provide the lower power to the micro. So what do I do as an engineer? So if you see this fault code, or sorry, this fault symptom, I said to you that for this series of amplifier you see a number of stock faults, and the stock faults that you find are, first of all, it could be due to either a failure of the left or right channel Darlington output transistors. Now you will know if that's the case straight away, because on the power input board you have the 2 protection fuses which are shown here where we're indicating the startup transformer. So that is on that main board. Now if you look down and you look at the protection fuses, if those fuses are blackened, that tells you that excess current has been drawn, and that normally indicates that you have an issue either with the left or right channel Darlington output transistors. And it's a straightforward case of using your multimeter, and you'll find either channel, one or both of the transistors are short circuit. And I've done repair descriptions on these previously. You will repair them, placing them with genuine originals, but also as well make sure that you make additional measurements, because remember, often resistors, for example, and also driver transistors can fail, but there's no visual indication, so you need to do some extra test work. Now what we show in the video here is the second most common fault. The power transformer has an internal thermal protection fuse. Now unlike some transformers where if the temperature of the transformer falls, the internal thermal fuse will reset, it doesn't. In most audio amplifiers, if the thermal fuse operates, that's it. There's nothing you can do. You have to replace the transformer or fit a near equivalent then. I am aware that some people will dig in and remove maybe the protective coating around to get access to the thermal fuse and then just bridge it out. I would not encourage anyone to do that, because the thermal fuse is there as a protection. Now I'm not saying that all transformer designs are great, and sometimes maybe the transformer is probably not the best design. It runs relatively hot, maybe more than it should do, and then the fuse will operate. But the fuse is operated normally because of temperature. It's not failed for any other reason. So that tells you could have an underlying issue where the transformer is getting excessively warm, or maybe there's some shorted turns on the transformer windings which are creating the excess heat. So for this amplifier, because it's a 720AE version, there is a specific part number for the transformer. Now for me, I had this transformer in stock, but I also hold in stock then a toroidal equivalent, because sometimes if I can't get access then to a genuine original transformer, maybe it goes obsolete, I've already got in stock a toroidal which can be fitted, which also includes a thermal fuse as a retrofit. So if people want to make a note, the part number for this, and there is 2 versions, remember this is the European version of the amplifier, so its part number is 9431 011 01 770D, and then you can source that directly from any Denon authorized repair or service company. Now what I show in the video is the multimeter, so you can see what I've done. I've just disconnected the 2-pin plug which is on the input start board, and then if you use a flat blade screwdriver, just a jeweler's type, you can just lift up the plastic locking pegs and pull the wires out of the plastic moulding, and then I'm just putting the meter onto resistance. For people who are, again, maybe you're undertaking repairs for the first time, what you don't want to do is hold the probe leads, and then also then the contacts then for the transformer, because even if it's open circuit, what will happen is the multimeter will read your internal body resistance. Okay, so what you can see here is I've just used some hook clips. I'm not touching the probe leads, and then I'm just measuring the the transformer primary resistance winding, and as you can see on this multimeter, it's indicating overload, so that tells me that it is open circuit. So once the transformer is replaced, here it's a like for like replacement. What this amplifier does not have is any soft protection reset. So I'm thinking here maybe of the Pioneer A10, A20, A30. That amplifier has a soft reset, so you have to reset the amplifier after repair. Here you don't. As soon as I replace the transformer and then initiate power up, the amplifier will then start up, and then it will then come out of protection mode. The LED on the front panel will then go green and then go solid. And then the only thing that remains is for me then to check the bias of the output channels, because sometimes you get some variation, you know, in the transformer tolerances. So when I put the meter on, and then on the video, on the channel as well, you'll see that there is a repair tutorial where I talk about setting up the bias. So what happens is you have two test connections on the board, and then I'm then able to then align and to set up the left and right channel bias. And what you're looking for is the volume control to be at minimum, the balance, treble and bass controls at midpoint. I deselect the loudness selection. I don't apply any audio at all, and I'm not connecting any speakers. And then I just allow the amplifier to warm up for 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll do an initial adjustment to approximately 10 millivolts. That's really what you're looking for according to the service manual. And then I'll leave the amplifier just powered up, not in a drafty environment, for about 30 minutes, and then I'll come back and then recheck. For this amp, the millivoltage was just slightly low on the bias. So one channel was about 8.6 millivolts, and then the other one was about 9.2. But that's not hugely out, just a slight adjustment then brought the amplifier back to what it would have in the initial settings. And then the only other thing that remained, like with all of the amplifiers that come into the workshop, is to carry out a full functional test. And then once the full functional test is then complete, I also then clean the amplifier, outer casing, front fascia, and then I just verify that the user controls are operating. This amp really came from a very, very good environment. It was virtually pristine. You know, you couldn't see on it anything. You know, it didn't have any sort of damage to the fascia, outer chassis or anything else. So the user or the owner of the amplifier took very, very good care of it. That definitely helps when you're working on amplifiers, and you'll see from some of the other tutorials, and even the one more previously for the power amplifier for the 200 Pro Sound, you have to allow additional time if the environment's not good, because there'll be quite a lot of extensive cleanup, and if maybe it's a damp environment, you could be faced with issues with the user control potentiometers and switches where you just can't clean them and you can't bring them back. You have to replace them then. Alright, so that brings us to the end of this overview tutorial. So I thank you very much for stopping by, and if you have any questions at all, by all means you can reach out to me anytime at audioamplifierservicing@aol.com, and I'm more than happy to assist. And what I will say, in recent months I have seen an increase in the number of people reaching out. I think it's more so because the tutorials are more engaging, but also you see the backdrop towards the end, like here, and you see the email address. So I think it's just very easy now for people just to contact, and I've been happy to help. We've repaired a number of amplifiers, and I know anybody who repairs electronics, probably the same as mechanics, if you get something which is working and you can restore it back, that gives you quite a buzz. You know, it's a good feeling to do, and also you're developing your knowledge and your skills as well. Alright, so I wish you all the best. Until the next time, cheers, bye bye.